Steve Cooper, Rank Success, and this is another short book review to signpost and direct promotion candidates to helpful or useful or interesting reading material that may support your wider background preparation for promotion. And today's read is Harvard Business Review's 10 must-reads on leadership. And they put underneath that, if you read nothing else on leadership, read these definitive articles. And this is probably my favourite book, and the reason for that is because it gives you lots and lots of different insights into leadership perspectives. It summarises ideas in point and summarises elements of perspectives around leadership, and it asks questions such as, can emotional intelligence be taught? Well, that's really an interesting question for you if you're going for promotion in the police service, because one of the competencies is we are emotionally aware, and you either are or you're not. So can it be taught? That's an interesting point on its own. The book covers motivation, motivating people, empathy, tough empathy, and some of the concepts around that, and discovering your own authentic leadership. So that's a quick whistle-stop tour, but there's so much more in there. So these are a breakdown of articles from Harvard Business Review by leadership gurus, and there's just some fantastic points in there. Now, one of the things I quite liked in here was popular myths about leadership. So some of this stuff is quite provocative and quite challenging. So in their research, I'll just read out some of it. In both our research and consulting work, we've seen people who profoundly misunderstand what makes an inspirational leader. Here are some of the most common myths. Everyone can be a leader. Not true. Many people don't have the self-knowledge or the authenticity necessary for leadership, and self-knowledge and authenticity are only part of the equation. Individuals must also want to be leaders, and many talented employees are not interested in shouldering that responsibility. Others prefer to devote more time to their private lives than to their work. After all, there is more to life than work, and more to work than being a boss. So that's a truism, and I quite like that, because leadership is delivered at all levels of the organisation, and whilst these book reviews are to support people going for promotion, they're equally relevant and topical for people who just want to develop themselves and their own leadership wherever they are and whatever role or position they find themselves. People who get to the top are leaders. Not necessarily, they say. One of the most persistent misperceptions is that people in leadership positions are leaders. But people who make it to the top may have done so because of political acumen, not necessarily because of true leadership quality. What's more, real leaders are found all over the organisation, from the top to the shop floor. By definition, leaders are simply people who have followers, and rank doesn't have much to do with that. Effective military organisations, like the United States Navy particularly, have long realised the importance of developing leaders throughout the organisation. So I quite like that, this concept that people who get to the top are leaders, not necessarily so. And I've got my own thoughts around that as well, which I often might share if people want to discuss them or not, as the case may be. Leaders are great coaches, and the College of Policing is looking at more coaching and mentoring style leaders, and including that style as part of leadership delivery within policing. So this concept here that leaders are great coaches, and the Harvard Business Review says, well, rarely. A whole cottage industry has sprung up around the teaching that good leaders ought to be good coaches. But that thinking assumes that a single person can both inspire people and impart technical skills. Of course, it's possible that great leaders may also be great coaches, but we see that only occasionally. And that's quite an interesting concept. More typical are leaders like Steve Jobs, whose distinctive strengths lie in the ability to excite others through their vision rather than through their coaching talents. So there's a recognition there that just because you are moving up through leadership positions, that you naturally have these great coaching skills. Not so, according to the Harvard Business Review. Again, these are not generalisms, they are observations from their research, but you can apply these, you can reflect on them, you can consider your own experience, but also just take on board that if you're someone who wants to go vertically up through the ranks, you don't necessarily have to be a good coach, you don't necessarily have to be a great coach. So focus on your strengths, and there's a whole different conversation around that. So I quite like that book. It's just really, really interesting and inspiring, and as you can see, it is well thumbed through, it is well highlighted on most pages, and I have a tendency to scribble across my books, but I really do like that one. It is my favourite. 10 best reads on leadership, and I'll be back with another review shortly. Thank you.